Oh, this end wasn't in. Okay.
I was watching a woman, the one who does the Gran-Fluencer one. She has cameras at different angles, so you're not just looking at her face all the time.
That's why I want to get more of these.
You should.
Santa. Hey, Santa.
Santa got to get you toilet brushes.
Yeah.
Santa got to get you toilet cleaner.
So how does Santa know I'm moving, Mom?
Santa knows. He knows everything.
What?
Santa gonna tell you what's a priority on your Christmas list.
No, we wanted to do more. I still have the old GoPro as well, but I didn't want to ruin it by getting, like, if I did a GoPro Hero 4 and a 9 when they're two different qualities. Like this one, I mean, this one came out in like 2006. The quality's terrible on the old one. Like if you look at the earlier podcasts when we only used the GoPro Hero 4, it was not pretty. That's a 9.
So you can't even use that one for an occasional angle shot?
I could, but the quality's so bad. You're like, it's like,
worth it.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking of using it. Also, battery life on that thing's terrible because it's so old.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't even get to a full stream without.
Yeah.
Mom, I don't speak poor, mother.
Yeah, really.
I don't speak poor.
You want to feed the poor or you want to beat the poor?
All right, guys. Episode 72, I believe
That's
we're
what
on
I
now.
said.
72. We got a lot to go through. I mean, this week was pretty jam-packed between Xi Jinping visiting, between Xi Jinping. We had a couple of other things in the news bank, I would say. There's been a lot of little things, but then some big things that came out within the last 24 hours, especially over the 6th, which we'll get into later. I'm just waiting for my Google to
For the
update.
record, I didn't pull any political items this week.
That's true. I think I only really pulled out the big ones. But we're shooting this on a Sunday because yesterday, I was saying before, I mean, we round 4 on the deck, my uncle's deck, and let me tell you, I was pooped. I went to bed at a solid 9:30 yesterday, which I haven't done since I was 7. Right? I went to bed at 9:30, woke up at 11:30. Solid 14 hours of sleep. I've never been that wiped in my life. I was sitting at my desk.
We were wondering, will you get up earlier since you went to bed earlier and it's the weekend? No.
Well, I did wake up at like 4 a.m. and I was like, I'm not getting up. So my body's used to the 6 to 7 hours, but 14 was like, okay, this was a rejuvenation. Okay. Like a rebirth, mother, almost.
Chris, if you needed it, you needed it.
Yeah, that was worth it. But I don't even know where to start.
He gets a little cranky.
I get cranky. Yeah, if I don't get enough sleep, holy. Okay, I don't even know what we want to start with today, mother. Which one of yours? Do you want? We could just go down the influencer route with these new granny streamers.
Yes, the rise of the Gram-fluencers.
The Gram-fluencer.
This young person who's talking about this.
That lady doesn't look that young.
No, she's pretty young. But she's making, she's talking about these Gran-fluencers that are making 6 figures. They post about a lot of common old people issues, right? This one, I don't know if it's her, one of the ones, talks about her ex-husband's funeral. And she asks a good question. When you watch the videos, she has, I think, 3 or 4 of them embedded in there from these Gran-fluencers, that it's funny and cute when they do it. If a 20-year-old said the same things that they said, they'd be labeled bitchy, a complainer. Yeah. It was very true as she was saying it. I guess it's funny because it's old people talking about having the same issues that young people have, and that's what makes it funny. Like you'd expect them to be above that, and they're not.
Right.
They're the Gram-fluencer privilege is what she deemed it. The main one she's talking about was her name.
There's too many privileges now. We're labeling too many privileges.
Grandma Droniak, that's what she goes by. She has 12 million.
Droniak?
12 million viewers.
I've never even heard of this person.
She's 93 years old. She posts about her funeral rules, and that's one of the ones she lists there about how it's you can come, you can cry, but not for long.
I wonder what that demographic is. I wonder if it's people her age or people in their 50s. I don't know. I don't know how you rack up that many.
Yeah, I don't know either. She didn't go into it, and I didn't dig deep into it other than through this story. But they say things at their age that the youngers can't get away with. So, you can watch the videos, ask yourself if there is such a thing as age privilege. Are they getting away with stuff that we wouldn't let a young person get away with?
Well, it just comes with the times, right? Times were different for them growing up. So we've had this debate so many times in our country. The times have changed. Stuff that you did 60 years ago doesn't really affect what you do today.
But that's the funny part. They sound like a young person today.
Oh,
Because they're
trying to
talking
stay
about
hip?
things like no, they're saying things like the one talks about her ex-boyfriend and how he treated her and how he's a jerk and did you say he drank too much or something? But like something that it's funny when the old people do it. But if a 20-year-old and they do
I
that
see what you're
too, they
saying.
get
I
on
thought
and
you
they
meant-
bitch about this
I thought you
stuff.
meant she was talking like Fortnite and stuff. Like, hey,
No. This is what they talk about. Like the one talked about, there's 3 of them or 4 of them embedded in it, two different people, and they complain, but it's funny complaining because they're old people. If a 20-something-year-old woman did it, I can think a guy too, but guys don't usually do that. You'd be like, this is pathetic. Stop your complaining. It's not funny, and it certainly wouldn't warrant 12 million views.
Yeah. The only time that I've seen something come close to this was, I forget which YouTube channel used to have it, but they would have the older people come on and they would like listen to modern day music and like give their opinions.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like you would hear like, oh, I would never listen to this.
Yeah.
Some actually really liked it, like the rap music and stuff. So it is funny. No matter what age you are, there is a certain level of like, I don't want to say acceptance, but you can kind of stay with the times in a sense,
Yeah.
Like we're kind of known as like, the boomer generation. They don't know what we're talking about, but in
Yeah.
reality, they just haven't really experienced it. So I wish I remember what YouTube channel it was, but they used to basically let them try modern day things like video games and stuff like that.
Right.
And they'd either really like it or go, oh, I can see why this is a problem, or
Yep.
like where we're falling apart. That was cool. They'd also do it with really little kids. So they'd have like 6-year-olds and then
Get their opinion
on
of it.
like older things that they used to do back in the day.
Right.
So like library cards.
Well, I always laugh at the list of things you could say to a young person today that have no idea what you're talking about. You sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
Because we had records that when they're broken,
What
it
the
would
hell's a
repeat
record?
over and over. Right. They don't know that stuff. I forget some of the other ones, but there's a
The
whole
other
list
one's
of them.
the telephones. Remember
Things with the telephone.
the telephones, the local, what do you call
Busy
them?
signal.
No, well, yeah,
You
that.
guys don't know what a busy signal is.
Or when you had to, phones were landlines, so everyone in like the neighborhood had one line. This is way before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a shared line. So
You'd have an operator who would plug you in, and she could hear the conversation if
Yeah.
she wanted to. Yeah.
A payphone? That's what it was. Not a
Oh
telephone.
yeah, payphone. Forget that. Payphone. They wouldn't know. We put money in.
Those ended when I was a kid. I feel like so those don't really exist.
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't know if I've ever seen one recently. Or maybe I saw
There's some
one
still in New York City.
somewhere. Payphones? I
Yeah,
don't
there's
think
still
so.
there's still some in New York City.
Oh,
they're
I
not
haven't been to the
used,
city in a
but
while,
they're
but-
still there.
I saw one somewhere, and I said, "Oh, look at that! That's so odd to see one now because I'm so used to them not being."
Oh
around.
yeah. Well, people see our home lines and they go, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
We still have a phone line,
Yeah,
which is annoying.
yeah.
I'll be
Well, we
streaming
have to
and
have
we'll
it
have
for our,
yeah.
our
I'll be
alarm
streaming and people
system.
are like, "What's that in the background?" Tom Kane wants you to run, like stuff like that.
Well, like your grandmother needs a landline because she has one of those phones that prints out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So my grandmother, if you guys remember when she was on, she has a phone that it's a telephone that actually will, in giant letters, do like a text to voice to text, so she can read the actual conversation.
Yep.
Because her hearing is not as great as it used to be.
Right.
And she refuses to wear her hearing aids.
Even with the hearing aid, she can't hear
Yeah,
anymore.
that's
So
tough.
it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And it gives her, it's reliable, so she can feel comfortable even if she can hear. So it's more so when she has a conversation with somebody, if they're throwing out numbers or any sort of data. You see it in front of you, but you need a landline for
Yeah,
that.
it's a lot easier. Just hopefully it's accurate.
Hopefully it's accurate. And as much as we say, how many times like the cell phones aren't working or you can't get through? So at least you have an alternative. I've used our house phone on occasion. Like I was
Yeah,
too
that's
lazy to go upstairs and get my cell phone, so I'd call right from the house phone.
Well, who memorizes numbers anymore? Like, I don't think I
Yeah.
could, besides yours in the house. Like, I don't know Dad's number by heart.
He has a wacky one through work
Yeah.
now.
I don't know Kenny's or Michael's.
Yeah,
It's all
I
on
do
speed
know
dial.
them. That's
Yeah.
true.
Mine's
Yeah,
pretty
you don't
easy.
have to dial it. Yeah.
But yeah, so with the older influencers, the only one that I've actually seen regularly is there's actually one older lady in the gaming community that will play like Call of Duty
Oh.
and stuff. She does really well.
Oh.
But that's why I just don't understand why someone like this, just talking about their life, gets 12 million. I don't know how these algorithms work.
Yeah.
I've spent 10 years studying them. I still don't. I think they're completely random.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that's
Well,
really
they're
cool.
funny. I mean, for what it's worth, it's funny. to
There's
hear
a
from
guy,
them.
there's an older dude on TikTok that I actually see every now and then who makes sundaes. Like he must
An
have
ice cream
owned-
sundae?
Yeah, ice cream
Okay.
sundaes. But he's like at a professional level. So he's got this bar in his house that's just for ice cream.
Yeah.
And he would make stuff from like movies,
Oh.
yeah. So that was pretty cool. That I like. I'll see
Yeah,
that.
of course.
And then there was a rumor that he passed away, and then it went for like a month, and then he's like, "Nope, I'm still here." He's just making ice cream
on Sundays.
Yeah. So,
Hasn't killed me yet.
yeah. Speaking of influencers, I guess I forgot to pull this one, but I know it's on Dextero. Shout out to Dextero. They do great work about all this stuff. So here it is. Pokimane, we gotta talk about her stupidity.
Her again? I think we've had her before, haven't we, Pokimane?
Yeah, something like that. But I'm sure she's done some pretty questionable things. But so she just came out with this Costco brand cookie, right?
Uh-huh.
She's charging $27 for these cookies.
A box of them?
A box.
Okay.
And it comes in packs of 4. Now, I couldn't tell. So here you go. $7 per bag, which can be purchased in 4, 8, and 12. So I think it's $7 a cookie or per bag. It's a
bag.
Okay, hold on. This is where I don't understand the breakdown. $28 for cookie. It's 4 bags, so 7 per bag. So I think it's little cookies, mother, small cookies. Now here's the thing.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
It's so bad. Well, let's see if we can find it.
You just I think you just scroll past.
Yeah,
it.
I want to see the Pokimane's. I'm sorry, I didn't have this one queued up, but Pokimane's cookies. Images. Yeah, so this is what they look like. So they're small cookies. And so one of these, to my understanding, is $28.
For one package of it.
Yeah. Or well,
that doesn't make sense.
So maybe the whole thing. This is okay. Now we're doing the Lord's work.
No, I think
here.
each pack is $7, and you can get a 4-pack,
for
8 pack.
28.
Right.
Now, I do feel like that's a little expensive for some rebranded cookies. Like, this is the thing. They're just to my understanding, they're just these right here, the Toast Midnight Mini Cookies.
Yeah.
That they just rebranded
and
then added price to it.
Okay.
So, but she's been getting a lot of heat for this, and then
When are you having the cake shop cookies?
I don't know. We might have to do a Costco brand. Costco, if you want cookies, I want. Listen, I want each box costing $40.
Oh, stop.
I want to really milk
No one's gonna buy it.
I want to milk it for every single dollar possible. $100 cookies, I'll do it. But this is her response to this, right? She said this on a live stream. This is the stupidity. Listen, she's a huge streamer. She's probably the #1 female streamer. I would think. But this kind of goes back to. This goes back to the idea of just because you're well known doesn't mean you should be famous and say stupid things. She says, when people are like, "Oh my God, $28 for cookie," I know it's hard math, but when you're an idiot. But if you're a broke boy, just say so. She said that to her viewers who pay her.
Yeah, that's pretty insulting.
Imagine. You know how stupid you have to be to do that?
Yeah.
Listen, I hate you guys, but I don't say it to you.
Well, and the reality is actually the whole concept is if you're buying her cookies, you're pretty stupid because the same ones sell for less.
Just get the cheaper ones, unless they're getting rid of that product and that's all you have.
I didn't see that.
I doubt they'll
read
do
the article.
that.
It didn't say that.
Yeah,
it's just because it's her.
It
her
is.
name's
I
on
don't
it.
know, Mother. You do the shopping. I know I'm not good at this. Is that a lot for a bag of cookies?
Sure.
Yeah, it is. $7 per bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you normally price those out as from what you saw?
Well, they're specialized cookies in the sense that they're made from deep chocolate, velvet chips, and something else, and they're small. But you could get a whole thing of Oreos if you happen to like Oreos for maybe $4.99 at ShopRite, and that's how
Really?
many cookies. Yeah.
Wow. I guess they're considered like elite. What would you call? Not exquisite. What's the lavish? What do they talk about?
They're gourmet.
Gourmet
they're
cookies technically.
Unusual.
Now I won't lie to you, they
unique.
don't look that gourmet.
No, they look like.
but, yeah.
I mean, they may be tasty. I don't know, but it's still a lot of money for something that I could get at the same store for less.
Yeah.
Like Ken pointed out to me last night, the melatonin. If you buy one container of 10 milligram melatonin, you could buy a same size 5 milligram melatonin, but you have to take 2 of those. Makes sense.
For cheap. For less.
It's cheaper, right? So why would I, for somebody who's labeling people idiot and whatnot, my question would be, you're an idiot for buying your cookies, because until they discontinue it, why would I pay for yours if it's the same damn cookie in a different package?
Yeah. What, maybe next week we'll have to do a taste test. We might have to do
I
a
don't
taste.
usually go. I have to look at what they.
I can order
like.
them. I'll order them.
No. I have to see what they are. They may have them. I'll be at.
I'll
Costco at some point.
get the Pokimane ones. You just get like the basic brand, and we'll see.
Oh,
how
they're
it goes.
infused with vitamin D.
Oh wow! How much do our vitamin D multivitamins cost upstairs?
You know what? Get a regular cookie and eat them out in the sunshine.
Yeah, you could
get
do
as
that,
much,
couldn't
if
you?
not more, vitamin D.
Yeah. It's funny, but yeah, it's just I'm more upset about the taste. Like I don't care about the cookies. I don't eat sweets, so as I down a cheesecake before.
Okay.
But I'm more upset by the fact that this is someone who's gotten to a level of wealth where she's lost touch. So that's the first one, right? You're thinking that your cookies are not inexpensive for the average person at $28.
Right.
Because it sounds like you can't buy a single pack. You have to buy them in boxes.
Okay.
Right. And the fact that the people that pay you, you're biting the hand that feeds you, literally.
Right.
Your viewers are the ones that pay you.
Right.
Sure, you have your Twitch deals and stuff. Maybe she's made so much that she doesn't even need viewers' money anymore, but just likes having it.
Right.
But to say to your viewers, hey, you're an idiot. I mean, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
To your loyal fans that are paying you.
You're broke if you can't buy these.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure even I have some idiots out there. I don't know. But, I mean, to say that to a massive amount of people that pay you, it's a little different than if you actually do something stupid. Like if you tell me something that you genuinely
and she should be nervous because it's her fans spotting a near identical product at Costco at a way cheaper price. So
you grab those. I'll buy the Pokimane cookies and we'll do a little comparison.
Yeah.
But all right. We'll do one of yours.
Test.
What do we got? Speaking of cookies.
Well, let me just say this along the lines.
Yeah,
Well, I guess along the lines of my one of my other stories, but also this too. I was watching. I haven't watched it in a while, but I was watching the Wall Street Journal weekend editorial report. They do a show with some panelists that I haven't seen in a while. We could actually do the Secret Service one. Piggybacks off of this, and they were talking about banning TikTok. Remember we've been saying about TikTok and the influencers and everything, and now they've seen that there's some real issues with everything going on with the war in the Middle East, that a bunch of young, I think mostly female TikTokers are promoting the Osama bin Laden letter as being so great.
I saw this.
Okay. So they were talking about it with this panel, and they're older people on the panel, and their take on it more from the perspective of should we ban TikTok or whatnot. I mean,
so this article doesn't have anything to do with it.
No, it does. Well, no, not directly, but the overall topic of what I'm going to say in line with this one we were just saying about the cookies. One of the panelists said, her name is Mary Anastasia Grady, old woman, probably my age, but she said, it's not even about the TikTok banning or not banning it. It's a real testament to how poorly we've educated that generation. Because the concern is it's such a wide group of people of a certain age that have no recollection of 9/11 or they can't make the connection of 9/11 and what happened that day, right? But her point was, it shouldn't be about the social media. Having China influence is one thing, or a foreign influence, yes, that should be questioned. But to banning things, the problem is, and I totally agree with this, young people especially, they can't do critical thinking. They're watching this stuff and they're drawing they're not even drawing an opinion, they're just taking the information from one source, right? Yeah. And similar to this woman, fortunately, the fans went into Costco and saw a cheaper version. That's critical thinking, to pause and say, wait a minute, just because I watch her all the time and I love what she says.
I'm talking about Pokimane.
Pokimane, yes. Just because she says that, critical thinking. You can't just lionize these people or take one idea and say, or one platform and say, oh, this must be the gospel truth. You got to think for yourself. So this is another story. This next one is about the Secret Service. So a little known story happened. I think it was on the November 13th. It might have been the Monday before, but I can't remember. So the president's granddaughter was with the Secret Service. Okay, 3 people tried to carjack the Secret Service agent's car that they take her in.
Really?
And they exchanged gunfire. Okay. The Secret Service, they opened fire on the 3 males attempting to break into the vehicle. And this was in Georgetown, which is a very nice area of Washington, D.C.
Oh, hold on. Did they know that it was a Secret Service vehicle, or were they just 3 idiots trying to...
We don't know. And that's why Jesse Waters from Fox News, he's saying, there's something funny about this story. And it goes back to, and I even said, discuss the Wall Street TikTok thing, critical thinking. just because a particular platform, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or any an influencer, for instance, says something, you got to pause for a minute and say, okay, something's not right here. There were no arrests, which is very odd. Now, Secret Service says no one shot, or no person was shot. They're not sure. Did they miss? They were firing guns. Is there somebody out there with two other guys at large, because they didn't catch anybody, walking around with a gunshot wound? Why wouldn't you do something? Naomi, the granddaughter of Naomi Biden, she was not even in the car at the time. Because if she was in the car, there would have been another Secret Service agent in there, and they wouldn't have tried to break in. They broke a window.
Yeah, so that means that they must have not known it was a Secret Service vehicle, or they waited for them to leave.
But
right?
what's odd is they're only supposed to fire shots if there's imminent danger.
Oh, I would think that if that's their only vehicle to get away, quote unquote, that would be considered imminent danger.
She wasn't even there.
Right, but you still assume because now let's say they steal that car, you're trapped there, so now she is in danger.
Right, but
That's
they're
how my brain
approaching
would
the
work.
vehicle, and
I'm
then
using
the
my
next,
critical thinking.
Well, if you have three people there, right, and they break into it, assuming they have something that they broke the window, right?
Yeah.
And they're opening fire on these individuals, which is very odd.
The other thing I want to know is aren't those Secret Service vehicles like borderline bulletproof?
They're
Like,
supposed to be. They're supposed to be.
Good luck trying to break that window.
But the other question is, did somebody have a weapon? Why would you pull out a gun and start shooting at a bunch of guys breaking into the vehicle? If it's an imminent threat, what were they doing? Were they charging at you? Did they have weapons in their hands? I mean, they're Secret Service. Not one guy.
I would think of it as the fact that they're breaking into a Secret Service vehicle is grounds for to shoot them.
No.
Really?
No, they're only supposed to fire if there's imminent danger, according to another Secret Service rep. If they were in, or obviously the person that they're protecting was in imminent danger.
I would have thought that imminent danger for the president's family and the president would be different from imminent danger to you or I. Like I would think
no,
the
it's
rules
to you
are a
and me,
little
but
different.
no, it's not. Apparently, from another agent, that's the only time they're supposed to be using their weapon, is if they or the person they're protecting is in imminent danger. And their point was, she wasn't even there.
Right.
She was not even near the car. Because if she had been, they wouldn't have broken in.
I have no problem with shooting carjackers. I have no issue with shooting those kind of people.
But the question is, and as he's saying, we're not getting the whole story here.
Yeah.
Something else went on. Now, he's trying to tie it into, we still, apparently this week also, we're finding out that there was actually DNA on the cocaine bag that was left in the White House. And the Secret Service agents denied that was the case. I don't know if it was a whistleblower or whatever, but now we're finding out there's more to that story. He's trying to make some sort of association of, at the same time, what's going on that we're firing shots at Naomi Biden? She's not a little girl, right? She might have been in the White House. We still don't know whose cocaine bag this was. They don't know what's going on.
Do we care? Tell me. I don't care about this bag anymore. I've lost interest, but go ahead. Tell me why I should care.
Well, I mean, in general, I care as a person with the White House. That's the people's house. I want to know who's bringing stuff in, especially illegal substances, on top of the fact that our whole election and everything else was hinged on this information about this one individual that was kept hidden.
Fair
and
point.
It continues. It's like a slap in the face. But having said that, maybe it had nothing to do with the family, but they lied to us about that. They lied to the public and said we had no information, we couldn't get enough info, which at the time a lot of people were saying, well, that's baloney. There's cameras all over the White House. They know who that person is. Now we found out right before this unusual shooting event that there was DNA evidence on that bag, and they probably do know who was involved, touching it or whatever. Okay. And now we get this fishy story about them shooting up Secret Service agents pulling their guns and shooting somebody over carjacking when the granddaughter was nowhere in the car. They're only supposed to fire when there's imminent danger. They're not sure if somebody got shot. I mean, it's just a very
it's strange,
flaky
but also
story.
I think if you're walking up to a car, let's say I'm Secret Service, and I see guys breaking in and I see that they have weapons just on them.
Okay, so that's the first thing. If they have weapons, that's one thing.
Even if they don't even have it in their hands, if they have a weapon, I mean, if I'm Secret Service, I'm shooting the shit out of those guys.
Well, you can pull a weapon, but you're not supposed to do it unless you're in imminent danger.
Yeah,
meaning they pull their
to
weapon.
me, then you go down to human behavior. Like maybe just, again, Secret Service, as great as they are, I'm sure they make mistakes,
Right.
just like any other.
But keep in
police
mind, a
officer.
police officer can't start firing at somebody.
But they do sometimes. That's
well,
the problem.
and
Yeah.
they have a problem with it.
Right.
Right.
Same with Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt they're that much better than police,
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I think everything that happened probably was reasonable up until you told me that we don't know if the guys were killed or not. Now, the only other thing I can think of is you shoot the guys and then it's get Naomi in the car and everyone goes as fast as possible for security reasons. That's the only other reason I could think of where it's like, oh, we don't know if they died or not or what happened.
We don't even know if she was anywhere around. It's not like we're assuming she's getting into the car.
Right.
We don't know if she was even near the car. She could have been in the building.
So it's just a empty Secret Service car, basically.
That's all we know.
Okay.
And that's
you're
why
right.
it's
it is
a fishy
no matter
story.
How you look at it.
Right.
Fishy.
We're not getting a lot of detail here for something that's out of character or out of the regular protocol for Secret Service.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I try to put myself in their shoes, thinking that I could be a Secret Service agent, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I have no problem with them firing at somebody with.
Who's trying to break into a car.
I mean, they're at least Secret Service people, and it is a
Are
vehicle.
you saying your property is more important than their life? What a terrible take. I hate that argument.
Well,
Oh my God, you steal from me. Good luck.
We keep getting the same thing over and over again. There was another one of some poor guy. He's in prison because people broke into his house and he pulled a gun. Right? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
You're talking about the one in California?
There's been so many, I'm not even sure which.
There was one in California recently where these guys tried to break into this guy's house as he's getting into his house, and he shoots the two guys. California took away his concealed carry.
Yeah.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah. It's California.
California, get out of America. Like, I don't know how you're still a state, truthfully. You guys are morons.
I'm trying to find.
Guy defends his house on camera.
Yeah, there was some breaking information within the last couple weeks since our last podcast on Derek Chauvin and George Floyd.
Yeah,
you saw it.
You want to talk about that? I don't.
We can. I want to pull the actual comments from the medical examiner.
Yeah, because I know Derek Chauvin is trying to my understanding, and again, I don't have the article in front of me, but from what I read, we kind of have certain information that George Floyd ended up not dying at all due to that neck thing. He ended up dying because of overdose and other things. The neck thing actually had nothing to do with it. So Derek Chauvin, the police officer who allegedly murdered him.
No, he was convicted of murdering him, so it's not alleged.
It's not alleged, right? He was convicted, but now he's doing an appeal because now there's evidence beyond doubt that he's not the reason for George Floyd's death. Don't know where that's going to go.
Right.
But I saw an article as well. Is the family required to give that money back to the city? Right? I doubt it. I doubt they're getting that back, but they've probably spent it all.
I'm sure they're spending it as we speak if they haven't already.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're good financially.
I can't find it, but the point was an interviewer, a reporter was asking the question. They knew at the time he presented that evidence, the autopsy report, that he did not die from that. And his basic comment was, careers would end if this information came out.
Yeah.
So in other words, no one was going to, even though that was a fact, who in their right mind at the time was going to bring that evidence out. They had already convicted this guy.
Right.
I mean, the town, the country was blowing up.
He was convicted before he even got arrested, remember?
Right.
That was such a nightmare.
Right. But to his credit, given the system, he's now appealing because he was limited in what he could appeal in what he could appeal for because he pled to a certain arrangement so he would get less time in prison. Like 40 years versus 80, some ridiculous amount.
Which is kind of, so when you really look back on it, all this, everything that happened in that trial, you go, wait, 40 years for that? Mm-hmm. You kind of go, listen, it was terrible that the guy died. Do not get me wrong. But 40 years, we don't have mass murderers that have done 40 years. I mean, looking back on it, you're like, wait, what? Why did we do? This doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's our system.
Again, I'm not saying that the guy. I don't want people to think like, oh, this guy's pro the death of George Floyd. I'm not saying that. But when you break down the whole thing of how this guy get 80 years for something that we're still not even 100% sure.
They burned our cities down over a lie.
Yeah. Well, yes, at that time we didn't know it was a full lie.
That he died. No, they did. That's the point. They withheld this information. The medical examiner.
Sure, but we didn't know that at the time.
Because they didn't share the information
but I'm saying, now we know today what happened. But back at the height of this, even then, with the lack of information we had back then, 40 to 80 years for that is ridiculous. Again, we have drug lords who have murdered more people doing 20 to 30. Like, it doesn't make any sense when you look back on it.
And this has been happening far too much in this country. And that's why you hear two systems of government or two systems of justice. Yeah. It's not just our elites, if you will, all the people in government. That is true. But state by state. You know, these are federal crimes that he was charged with. And I don't know, it's just, and to find out that it was based on evidence that was not presented at his trial.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe the jury at the time would have convicted him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even with
who
that
knows?
evidence.
But still, the fact that now we know today that it just kind of goes to show you that the BLM movement was just a freaking waste of time.
And money. A lot of taxpayers' money. Yeah, for what? You know, they burn
ruin
things
people's
down.
businesses that had nothing to do with it.
Well, and I'll play devil's advocate. Say there were some genuinely outraged BLM supporters who really believe this.
Yeah.
Talk about bursting your bubble when you burn things down thinking that somebody was, not that many of them probably care, but maybe there's a few out there that actually has a conscience and said, wow, maybe I wouldn't have been so violent had I known that the guy didn't actually kill him. Yeah. But
well, I would have thought the real eye opener for the BLM movement was when they realized that the people that they were giving money to were just buying themselves houses.
Oh, I know, I know.
But the fact that all the money that you raised went nowhere.
But believe it or not, Chris, nobody
knows about that.
Nobody really knows. They may not know about it. However, and this is the difference. People can choose to report on what they want to report. That goes back to what we're saying about critical thinking. If you withhold evidence in a trial, that's a big difference. You know, that's I don't have to report that evidence. I'm not a very good reporter, but I have to report it.
Is it that it was withheld, Mother? I don't think it was withheld. It was just not.
I'm trying to find the story to say that it was not. I believe it was not included in the evidence, or it was. I forget. I have to find the right terminology. I don't want to misquote. I can't find it. They literally had the quote from him, from the. It's like a message that came across from the doctor that did the autopsy, and that's the difference. I mean, it's one thing to say that's a fact, but nobody reported on it. Mm-hmm. That fact is pretty important for that trial, and he has every right to say, hey, this has a bearing on my conviction when the autopsy says that it didn't, I didn't cause his death, but yet I'm doing 40 years for murder?
Yeah. I don't know, but let's move on to the next one just because I'm sure we've already been demonetized. We don't need a channel strike at this point.
Okay.
DC considers tossing social work exam over concerns it fails too many people of color.
Yeah.
So what DC considers tossing social work exam?
Right. So when you apply for social worker, you have to go to school and whatnot. Certain level jobs, to get those positions, you have to take an entry-level exam.
Kind of like a GED almost, like a
it's DC Council. They want to eliminate the exam for the entry level and what's called a master's level licensure applicants. So it's a multiple choice of hypothetical scenarios. They question whether it takes into consideration cultural nuances and real world experiences. Others say it's the problem that they're failing is not because of cultural nuances and real world experiences. It has a lot to do with the poor, educational challenges that a lot of them have growing up where they're not being taught enough to take these tests. The Virginia-based Association of Social Worker Boards, that's the one that brought this. They were forced to, or they had to push their data out from their tests between 2018 and 2021. I found it very interesting. So 76.2% white people passed the first time. This I found interesting. 63.6% of Native American indigenous people. Now, if you know anything about any of them that live on reservation land or under that realm, I'm sure there's some in public schools and whatnot, their education has always been very poor.
Right, because they have their own schools on reservations and stuff.
They chose to not take our funding or whatever for that.
We don't really talk about it that much, but the Native American, if you want to talk about kind of alienating yourself within the country, those people are very alienated in compared to everyone else. Because most of them are required to live on the reservation. There's a lot of requirements, right?
No, they're not required. We don't require that anymore in this country.
No, the Indians require it amongst their people.
Yeah, of the people. Yes, okay. I think you sound like we do.
No. A lot of them are in the casino business. That's where most of their money comes from in the reserve, in the reserves. Am I saying that right? Reservations.
Reservations, but I think it has a different term now. But yeah.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what the terms are nowadays, but they really isolate themselves from the rest of America. It's almost like a country within a country. And then, I mean, I don't want to not look down on them, I guess, but they do this thing where it's like, hey, we don't want any association with America. We want all the benefits of America and tax dollars, but like we don't want any of our kids learning what you guys teach. So they have their own schools. You can choose to go off the reservation, but depends on the group, like the clan or whatever. They make that decision.
Tribe. They usually use a tribe term.
Yeah, sorry. But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they have the inner city debate of like lack of education is a lot stronger than the Native American lack for education, because they end up teaching their kids what they want to teach. Right?
Well, they're the leaders of
the
nations, the tribes, have always felt, or originally the feeling was, we need to control our culture. We need to control our people. We don't want to get it watered down. We don't want to assimilate to the point where, we lose our history, our people, if you will. So that was the general idea. But then they also realized with that power, we do get some funding and we get to control where those dollars go. But there's a trade-off. If you're going to do that, then you're going to have your own schools. You're going to have your own way of doing things. And they tend not to, don't know, and I'm generalizing, but oftentimes they don't fund it as much as it should be, or the money isn't put towards that, or it's not the priority, or they don't get enough money from the federal government because they look at it as, well, why should we give a ton of money to the reservation when there's a perfectly good multi-million-dollar public school in the next town over, if you will, that, because they always want to push everybody into public schools because they can indoctrinate them. I'm not saying they're necessarily wrong in their mentality, because they probably saved their native culture, and they probably have generations of kids that grow up knowing their language, knowing the culture, knowing the background. If they went to public schools, who knows what they turn, got a lot of freaks coming out of the public schools. So there's nothing, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I was just interested that they were the second highest at 63.6%, the Native Americans.
Yeah,
and if you're going to blame cultural nuances and what was the other thing I said? The cultural nuances and just lived experiences. Interesting the Native Americans came that high. 59.6% were the Asians.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on that, but why aren't they higher? 52.8% were Hispanic.
No, and all joking aside, there is a certain, again, I guess you could call it racism, but Asian people in this country, gotta be careful with how you put this, do very well when it comes to test taking. It's just in their nature, I guess.
Which might
be... I don't know if that's racist to say, but I don't mean it.
No, it tends to be a disciplined culture that puts a lot of value on education and homework and doing all that work. Having said that, and maybe there's something to it then when Native Americans and Asians are having trouble doing as well.
So my first question would be, I'd like to see what questions are on this test.
They won't release that. That's why.
Okay, there you go. Because now I go, well, if certain people aren't doing well, what is this test based on? Because is it based on American history?
No, it's a social. Well, I'm assuming it's hypothetical based on social workers, what you would expect, like a job type scenario.
So that's why I go. I'd like to see what that test looks like before I start saying, oh well, this is a lack of education. For all I know, I'm going to get a 10 on this, like a 10%.
Right, and nobody's going into it cold in that they've already been studying social work. This is what you take.
Yeah, this is your final test. This is like your bar.
Well, when you're applying for certain jobs.
Yeah.
So if you're a social worker, and if you all recall, what was it, 5 years when they pushed for the defund the police, they wanted to replace policemen with social workers.
No,
we're gonna have a social worker go into a domestic dispute. Right?
Yeah, that'll go well.
Right. So
God,
understand
the fact
why
that that's even an idea
there was
stupid.
this big growth in social workers and why the testing becomes important.
Yeah.
33% of blacks were passing it the first time. They were the lowest on the group. Now, my question is, first, what you were saying, even if we can't see the test, there's one thing we know about in the United States of America. Go into any bookstore and every freaking test out there's a prep book for it.
Yeah, there's a prep book, yeah.
Enough people have taken it that they could come out and say, well, these are the general topics that they discuss when you take the test.
Yeah.
To recreate it. I'd be very surprised that one hasn't been leaked yet. And what tends to happen with these tests is they're ultra standardized, which... When we were looking at the SATs and the ACTs, when you guys were at that age,
runs you could do.
One of the best books I ever saw on that was not the practice prep blah blah blah, Guy did an entire book on how you can answer every question if you just understand the premise that any person should be able to answer this question, not intelligent people.
Yeah,
Quite the opposite.
It's actually not made for whether you're smart or not. It's just based on, like, do you understand the concept?
It's not that. It has to be so standardized because of lawsuits. You can't have anything vague like "do you think" or "the opinion of."
Oh.
The answer has to be there, because if you can't get the answer from the question, then you have all sorts of litigation. I'm summarizing, but basically that's the concept. That tests that are given on a massive level like this, they have to be so standardized that anybody should be able to answer.
So
them.
I wonder if it's not an issue of. Okay, so now I'm going to counter my argument, right? I wonder if it's not an issue of whether you understand it or not. I wonder if it's an issue of like whether you have the tools needed to study, like the ability you're taught how to study, right? Because then these percentages kind of make sense to me, except for the Asian one. The Asian one.
Well, if we go by what they're saying,
again, we're turning into a racist podcast right now.
I don't want to say it that
We're
way.
just saying there's certain stereotypes that make sense.
Well, I think they owe it to show what the questions are for both sides.
Exactly.
You can't just say that and say, there could be maybe some people's lived experience, and it doesn't have to be race-based, by the way, but some of their experience, they would handle a situation differently based on where they were raised, their environment, and what they took away from their studies as a social worker, right? You and I would have to handle things very differently than what we're used to if we went into an inner city as a social worker and tried to help them. We would have a learning curve. We don't know, even though we may have studied the book and gotten all A's and hundreds, you still don't know the lived experience of people until you get in there and you actually, hear and see what it's like. So I do get that if you're making hypothetical situations, everybody's going to approach it a little bit differently based with what they bring to the table. But to be consistently that low or that odd post of different groups, you would think the same thing of Native Americans or Hispanics.
What years was this over, Mother?
2018 through 2021.
Oh, yeah, I just looked at it.
That's where the numbers came from. And
COVID's in the middle there.
Older test takers did poorer than younger ones.
Older test takers did worse than younger.
Yeah, if you scroll down, I think that was the quote. Let me just double check that. Keep going towards the end.
You made it up.
No, it's in there.
You made it up. Nerve-wracking.
It was towards the end.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. I know you read things pretty diligently, so I don't know why you would be
that
wrong.
Bothers me, but
if that's true, then yeah, I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, it's a very
mental
odd
thing, huh?
It's I could understand it until I saw the breakdown of all the groups, and I would say, well, why would their lived experience be any
different? Yeah.
Different or not different, but theirs would be as different that you would think. Why you can't really use that argument about that? I would think, especially the Native American.
You know what would have helped them though, Mother?
What?
A chatbot. Which are falling apart. Discord's OpenAI AI-powered chatbot is officially shutting down. We talked about this a few months ago when they added it. Remember? We were like, this is stupid. What's it used for? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, you're right. We're going to close it down. So this is just me, my cynical view of chatbots, where like no one, this goes back to everyone feels like they need a chatbot. Right, or some kind of AI.
Explain to me, chatbot. What's a chatbot?
AI, it's just a regular. It's like a Chat GPT.
Oh,
something
okay.
Like on Snapchat, we have like our My AI thing.
Yeah.
No one uses them. Don't know why they do it. They just, again, with the big AI craze, everyone felt like they needed to have one. But I use Discord every day. I was one of the pioneers of Discord. I've been here since the start. Right. I've never used that Clydebot once. I don't know how to use it. I don't care for it, and I'm glad they're getting rid of it because it asks me all the time, hey, the only thing that it might be used for is for people that have really high-end servers that can do a bunch of things, but now there's third-party softwares that'll do that for you that Discord already has implemented. Yeah. So, yeah, this kind of goes to OpenAI, like... You don't need a chatbot for everything or an AI for everything. It was fine beforehand. So now they're probably $1 billion in the hole trying to figure it out.
They gotta crap it out.
They have to go, okay, we're done with this thing. It sucks. I think Snapchats is going to go pretty soon because Snapchats sucks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's terrible. I don't know what it's for.
Things.
Yeah.
I don't need AI. I'm too intelligent.
The only person that doesn't have an AI built in is Facebook right now. Facebook doesn't have some bullshit AI in your face all day. So
pay for it.
The smart, they probably couldn't afford it. But also then again,
no, they could afford it, but I would say they probably want you to pay for it. They want to monetize it first before they launch it.
I don't know. Maybe there's a group of people out there I don't know about that actually use these AI chatbots for Discord servers and whatever. But for the most part, I mean, I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone that uses these.
You're asking the wrong person because you know me.
Mom, give me answers.
Yeah, I don't know that weird word.
ChatGPT is a little different because you're asking it questions, and 9 times out of 10 you're using it to cheat on tests. That's about it.
Well,
yeah.
I don't take tests, so.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like ChatGPT, as cool as it is, and I'm sure it's going to be used for good use cases, something like Discord isn't going to need a chatbot.
No.
There's no use for it. So that's why I think you're going to see a lot
if
of
it's
these.
like the AI type thing, what do you need it for in Discord? Isn't that just like a meet and greet place?
Basically, yeah.
Things?
Like there's things that'll say like, "Oh, hi, you've been added to the server," but Discord has those built in already.
Okay.
I don't know what an extra chatbot's for. Is this for the lonely person that just wants someone to talk to?
It could be. Sadly,
it's possible,
it could be.
But realistically, it's possible. But I don't know what else it's for.
Unfortunately, there aren't enough lonely people because they're shutting it down.
Yeah. The other thing. Yeah, exactly. Now, the other thing to these chatbots is all of these. Besides ChatGPT, when everyone started making new ones, like the one for Snapchat and stuff, it's not like they give you a guide on how to use this thing. So you just have to figure it out on your own, which is part of the reason why they just fail.
Right.
No one has the time for that, and then they go, "Oh, I really don't need this."
Yeah.
So no one uses it. That's really what it is. But
goodbye, Clyde.
Yeah.
Nice knowing you.
Nice knowing you, even though I never met you. Never met you once. All right, ready for this one? This is an anime one, Mom.
Anime.
Don't freak out, but this is actually a pretty big deal. So one of the biggest shows right now, and probably will be in history, is called Jujutsu Kaisen. So the main animator, who's done a lot of shows besides just this current one, is refusing to work for MAPPA. So I'm a little confused by how this works, just because as much as I watch really only anime, I don't know the behind the scenes. I think MAPPA's the producer. Like they're kind of like. This is, I could be completely wrong on this, but I tried doing as much research as I could, and someone's going to have to correct me in the comments if you hear. But it's kind of like their version of the writers walkout that we had recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is a big deal because in Japan, the biggest shows are animes, right? Now, if these producers, and this guy is like, this is like if, I'm trying to think of who like a big, it's almost like if, what's the guy that did Chainsaw Massacre, Kill Bill? It's like if that guy just walked out. Tarantino.
Oh.
Quentin Tarantino. It's almost if he was like, I'm not doing movies anymore. Like, that's how big this is.
Okay.
So the reason that this is a big deal is because I think a lot of these shows are going to start, like, not falling off, but, like, getting canceled because they don't want to work for them anymore. It has to do with pay. It has to do with creative decisions. Again, I think a little bit of Japan is going to that woke side with a lot of the shows that they're doing.
Okay.
But if for a big show like this to start falling apart, and then when it comes to the animes, Mom, remember there's like a new one every week. Like they'll put out 8 brand new shows every week. Some of those people really look forward to.
Yeah.
And if there's a hiatus, I mean, that's a whole industry that will collapse. That's not like a given. There's probably so many shows that it won't collapse, but you know what I mean. This is a big hit.
Well, what they're refusing to work because they want what?
They want more pay. Basically the same thing that our writers wanted.
So they'll give it to them. If it's that valuable and...
Yeah, the question is how long is the hiatus? Because a lot of these shows, right? So Kenny just watched the last episode, and they said that it was only 30% done, right? When you're churning out something every week, right, and you're on time constraints, schedule, these things take a long time to make because they're all animated. Right. It's not like a TV show where you have the graphics and stuff, but I mean, this is every piece of right, a picture, a frame, and then you have 100,000 frames a week, right? I've always, one of these days, I'd love to meet an animator, to know how long a 30-minute show takes to actually animate, because I think these are done like a year in advance, and then they churn them out as they go. You know, so think about that. Unlike a movie, we could shoot a movie in a couple months, maybe.
Yeah.
One season could take years to actually do all the writing and the drawing.
So catching up is going to be a problem.
Yeah. So if you take a stop
Yeah.
It's not like these writers and stuff where they can just kind of start back up. It's, hey, we got to get back on the drawing board, and we have to get through a whole...
But isn't a lot of it computerized, though, now?
That's my question. I'd like to ask. I don't know how much of it's computerized. But one of the beautiful things of ChatGPT, which is one of the use cases that they talked about, was like what you could do now with animation in like Pixar and stuff. You can have a starting frame and an ending frame and like a couple in the middle, and the ChatGPT will be able to make the in between. Oh, so that's a cool feature. But
maybe they know they can use that. Or...
Maybe by then. But again, this is a big deal in Japan right now.
Well, let me just tell you, as a common parallel situation, Yellowstone was a very big show. Came out soared to the top, right? Had 4 seasons, I believe, and then they had these lag times between, because they started to do that with all these streaming shows and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So you had the lag time a few months. Then it was compounded with the head star leaving and fighting with the producer. Then you threw in the SAG Awards, or the writer's strike. Okay? Long story short, it's starting to lose its appeal. And they run those first 4 seasons over and over again. You know, like they'll do a marathon every holiday and whatnot. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, this really hurt them in general, that lag time plus you can't account for the SAG stuff. But I have a real problem with a lot of these streaming shows that take 2 years off before you get the next season. Yeah. And I'm not even as bad as younger people. Like my brain usually can go longer. My generation were disciplined to go a little bit longer. But just so you know, as kids, our big thing was when you went back to school in the fall, all the TV shows were coming out because you had fall season. That was like the only perk to going back to school. You knew all the cliffhangers from the spring. When they stopped production, they finished the season. They would do the reruns in the summer, and then you would see it in the fall. Right. But we're talking 3 months, maybe 4, that from beginning to end when you'd see the new season. Now you're doing like 2 years. My first one was Game of Thrones. I was waiting like 3 years before the next season.
I have no sympathy, considered I waited 9 years for Bleach to come back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And now you have these animes that, same situation. If it goes too long, a particular storyline, like
that's
a Yellowstone,
very common
people
because,
lose their
like for
interest.
me, I watch so many different shows. Like they'll wait a couple years for a show to come out. I'm not someone that likes rewatching stuff. Like once I've watched it once, maybe I'll watch like a synopsis, but I don't remember some of the stories. So like there's I'm trying to think of what show it was, but there was one that took a long time. But it was I don't even remember it, but it took so long to come back. I tried watching it again. I was like, I don't even remember what this story's about.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I've had a lot of problem with that.
Yeah.
And I don't mind them rerunning it, especially when there's like a year between rerun the season. This Yellowstone is ridiculous. They've been running it every holiday, every other weekend, to the point where people lost. I think people lost interest.
Japan is kind of catered to us now in the sense of they used to go like 2 to 3 years before a new show would come out, like new season, I should say. But because they understand in America, it's shorter times. Now it's like 6 months.
Okay.
Right. So sometimes less. Sometimes it's like I would say it's like 4 to 6 months.
Right.
But again, it comes back to the how long does it take to make one season when it's all animation, right?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Then maybe it doesn't take that. Maybe a lot more of it is computer generated.
Yeah,
if
maybe.
they can churn it out 6 months later and start another season.
Yeah.
Or to your point, maybe they're overlapping. Like they've already got 2 seasons done.
Exactly. That
does
happen. That I know it does happen.
Yeah.
But it's tough because. I'm trying to think of what show. Well, I guess Bleach was the show, but so we've talked about this, but you have the manga, which is like the comic book, and then you have the actual anime.
Yeah.
And basically they caught up to where the manga left off, and then they didn't have anything to go with, so that's why it took 9 years, because the guy was like, okay, I guess I'll start Bleach again. It's kind of like what's his name that did Game of Thrones?
I know
the heavyset guy. No offense, but
can't think of his name.
JJ
Not
RJ.
Tolkien, no, it's Oh, jeez. It's been so long. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been out of that world for a while. JJ, what the heck was his name? I could see him.
Yeah. I know someone's out there watching right now, a guy who
Game of Thrones.
wrote Game of Thrones. Someone's...
Martin,
George
R.R. Martin.
Yeah,
George R.R. Martin, okay.
Yeah. So, but, yeah, you wait for them to finish writing these books, and it's like, okay, well, now we're kind of in a hiatus.
Right.
You know? So that's why One Piece... which has gone on for so long because they've milked every single episode so that they didn't catch up at all. Yeah. So that's why One Piece is 1,200 episodes or 1,300 episodes, whatever we're at. So
Yeah, most series are my generation. Maybe you got 10 years. Like, look at Friends. Friends, I think, was 10 years. Not my
But
generation,
then look at The
but earlier.
Simpsons, right? The Simpsons
Simpsons
have
have gone
been
a long
on
time.
forever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
South Park.
Yes.
The animation, there is something to the animation of, it's not like anyone's getting older, so you don't have to worry about the actors or anything.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you could add characters. It doesn't cost you anything.
That's why these shows will last
And the
forever.
voices.
Yeah. Like One Piece, I mean, think of how many people have probably passed away in the making of that, right? It's been 20 years.
Well, and I think there's a different mentality now. You know, that I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many, as you said, it changes somewhat, but the main premise is the underlying story is still there, and it just keeps going. For us, like the older generations, I would say it's not so much that one story takes a theme and goes decades and decades with it, but there are recurring themes you see in every story. Like the Brady Bunch, it's a family, there are kids, they have these issues. Partridge Family, it's a family, they have issues.
Yeah.
Cosby Show, it's a family, they have these issues. A lot of the issues are the same. It's just in the 80s versus the 70s versus the 2000s. So that's the
that's also the beauty of why the animes are so good, because you have the ability to make a new premise every time. Like there's very little overlap between, like there's never two shows that are the same and have the same premise.
Right.
So that's kind of why people like it so much, I think.
Yeah. Well, Marvel. Look at all the Marvel
Yeah,
and the
Marvel.
DC. They're
Yeah,
doing
but
these
Marvel-
movies, but
the
it's the
problem
same
with-
premise.
Yeah, the problem with Marvel is, to your point, it's all
Yeah.
the same. The good guy
Yeah.
always wins. Whereas like there's some shows out there where you're like, good guy doesn't always win.
Right.
You're like, oh
Well,
shit.
and the creative side of it is the character. Like, how do we make the next villain?
Yeah.
And what superpowers is this guy gonna have? I do give them credit, like the Spider-Man one recently that came out where they had multiple alternate universes and
Yeah, that
all the
one's-
Spider-Men came on.
They call that
which
one of
at
the
first,
better shows.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I looked at Mike and I was like, that sounds really stupid. But they did a pretty good job, and I'm not a
multiverse,
big,
yeah.
Spider-Man fan, but they were able to make it a really good creative story, and it made sense, even though it was fictional. But most of the stories, now that's the hard part. That's the challenge. With
how do you
those.
make it
How do you
something
give
different?
it that twist? Otherwise, it's here's the villain. He has a girlfriend. Something happens.
Yeah.
He turns good. Then there's a bad guy. Blah 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 blah. So the story kind of is, the same story, but you just tweak it certain ways, and then one generation falls out. They get sick of it.
Yeah.
And then the younger kids pick
Well,
up
that's
next
what,
generation.
like Naruto, that show
Yeah.
that we watched?
Yeah.
So Naruto, right, the story of the greatest ninja to ever live. It's like my whole life, right? I started at fifth. Do you remember Toonami when we were kids?
Sort of, yeah.
On Cartoon Network?
Yes.
So what was I, like 8th grade up until when I finished it in like college? And then they had this new show.
8th grade is not a little kid, by the way.
Whatever. It feels like a little kid. And now when I see 8th graders, I'm like, ugh. But and then they tried doing almost like it's not really a spin-off. It is canon, but it's his son,
Okay.
Boruto.
Yeah.
And Boruto for boring. They completely basically killed the show.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes
That
back
happens.
to now you're trying to follow the same. You're trying to chase the
Formula.
dragon.
Yeah, the same
you're trying to chase
formula,
the
but
dragon,
different
and there's no
characters.
dragon to chase anymore.
Right.
So it's like you should have ended it at one point, but now we're all deep, and now they're trying to revamp it with his son. They're doing a time skip, whatever. So
A lot of series used to introduce a new character. So when the kids got
basically what
older,
this
they
is.
bring a new character in, and he usually ended the series.
well, the big point of Naruto was for him to finish his goal, which was become the best, whatever. Becomes the best. That's where you should have ended it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You did it. Now it's like, hey, we're gonna have this stupid son.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same. This is what annoys me. This is so one of the reasons why I also like the animations or animes versus like here in America where it's like SpongeBob. It's like SpongeBob is just one freaking same story over and over again. It's like silly.
Yeah.
Whereas Naruto and all those aren't silly. They actually tell a story.
Yeah.
The problem with Boruto, right? This is the premise of every episode of Boruto. Hey, Boruto, don't do that. He does it.
Yeah.
Right? Causes a problem. He fixes the problem. And it's like, Boruto, you're a hero.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Right.
So that's the downside of a show. And that's why you should have stopped it at the end of that.
But there, you know what? And there's a lot of series for when we're younger. That was the whole premise.
Yeah.
Told not to do something,
But
they
you get
do
tired
it.
of that premise.
Oh, absolutely.
You get tired
and
of
you
that
only do it
premise
for
every
so
time.
long, right?
Yeah.
There's shows now we watch, Dad and I, that we watched and thought were funny when we were in our 20s. We watch it now, we're like, we can't believe we thought this was funny.
Yeah,
It's
this
like
is good.
stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people talk about, I don't realize it, but with Naruto, there was a lot of filler episodes, which are like episodes that have nothing to do with
Right.
the story itself. And I don't remember those growing up. I watched all of Naruto, but I don't remember that much filler.
Yeah.
Whereas One Piece, it's the same. It's a lot of filler. So I go, man, it's all filler. But then Kenny and Johnny remind me of how much filler there was in Naruto, and I was like, oh wow, there is a lot of filler.
Right.
I don't remember it at all, but
Right. Probably if you went back and watched it again, then you'd see.
I don't
wow,
I don't watch
that.
stuff back.
Right,
That's my
but
thing.
that's my
Once
point.
I
If
watch
you
it
saw
once,
it-
it's in memory, and that's it.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
that was
I
kind of
can't
silly.
tell you the last time I rewatched
In
something,
memory. Well, I
even
guess it's not
movies.
in memory because you don't remember the filler stuff.
Right. I guess my brain just thought, like back then, I didn't really know what filler was. So I just figured that they were just episodes, you know?
Okay.
But now looking back on it, like now I can tell what's filler and what's not.
Right.
Right. So, yeah.
I've watched some series recently. I was watching Morse, right? It's called Endeavor, right? So it was talked up a lot. I said, all right, let me see what this is. British, right? So I put it on. It takes place in the 60s. And it's about this detective Endeavor. That's his name. Come to find out, it's based on a show that was very popular in the UK in I think the 90s, called Morse, Morse. The detective's name, and he's older. He's in like his 70s. His name is Endeavor Morse. So they did a sequel, but they went back in time to how he became who he was.
Oh.
What's interesting, I was watching the Endeavor series. I really wasn't paying attention. I was coming in, blah, blah, blah. And as it started to go along, I'm like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. But the story builds, and apparently there are little things in each story that I totally missed because I wasn't paying. So I had to rewatch it. And within a few months, I'm not even talking years later, it was amazing at how much stuff I missed by not paying attention and really watching it because I wasn't that into it at the beginning. And then I watched it again and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Sometimes things that you think are filler,
Aren't really filler.
then you find out, oh, well, there was a reason why that happened. And you don't find out till later on. You're like, oh, now I got to go back and watch the filler and find out what happened.
Well, that's the beauty of that One Piece live animation.
Right.
It gets rid of all the filler. So,
Okay.
like I'm not kidding when I say one season of the Netflix adaptation is like 200 episodes of One Piece, like the actual animation.
Yeah.
That's how much they shorten it.
Yeah.
And that's good. I would have done it as now I told you there's One Pace, which is a website that gets rid of all the filler and basically shortens everything. But that's like, there is such thing as too long. And I think most of us would agree One Piece has been too long.
Right. Well, I have a question. For the animes, do they have advertisements? Well, how do they get money? Do you have to pay for the streaming?
My guess is it's different for, like, when you're over there in Japan, I have no clue how it works. But when I say, like, that is all they watch over there. Like,
Right.
that's all they have.
Right.
They have soap operas and stuff, but I
Yeah.
don't believe, or they're watching American shows.
Right.
But my guess is they're advertising, like, have you ever seen a picture of their, a Big Apple?
Yeah.
It's all their Big Apple. It's like all the big shows, like
Okay.
Jujutsu Kaisen. You have One Piece, like Luffy's everywhere.
But when you watch it, you stream it. Or let's
Yeah,
say when
you would get it
another
off-
person,
yeah, here in
you pay
America-
for the streaming,
here in
or
Am-
you pay for Netflix. and
Here
you
in
get it.
America, it's Crunchyroll is the name of the. You've
Okay.
probably seen it before, but Crunchyroll does all the animation shows. So like Invincible, which is the American one.
Okay.
That's on Amazon. I believe they have it. Like there's a
Okay,
bunch of
so
just
you
different
stream
ones.
it through a platform,
Yeah,
or you
and
can
it's
go
like a
to
paid
their
platform.
own. You pay for that, and that's how they make
I
their money.
believe that's the only way in America you can watch it, unless you're watching it on like a third party. I don't know all the websites to watch it.
Right, but when you watch it, there are no ads that pop up at the end or the beginning, or are there?
Depends. I mean, it depends on what Crunchyroll wants or whatever they're doing. But if you have a premium subscription, I don't believe there's any advertisements. But to your point, I don't know. Does Crunchyroll get that money, and what percentage goes to the companies that are making them over in Japan?
Yeah, well, I didn't
don't know how that
they
works.
generate their income at all. I didn't know, if it's on TV over in Japan or they stream it in Japan.
Yeah, I think it's just part of their cable.
Yeah.
Like they don't have
Interesting.
the other stuff. Yeah, it's very different over there.
Well, unless they're more advanced than we are, and everything they do is online. Maybe they don't do cable type TV.
Yeah, maybe.
everything is done.
I don't know anyone in Japan, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
know.
it'd be interesting.
But yeah, so that's really all I have. I really hope that they don't end up canceling Jujutsu Kaisen. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about, now we're gonna have to dance around the subject because we don't need a channel strike, but we'll just call it the 6th, right? I'm trying to see where that Nancy Pelosi thing was, but I mean, we're getting a lot of information on the 6th that has come out recently that I think you guys have to start paying attention to.
Well, the Speaker of the House just recently, the newest Speaker, Johnson, just said he would post the January 6th videos, and he's doing it and he sent some out recently, and he's doing them probably in tranches, meaning because it's a lot of hours. He's doing them in segments and sending it out. The first batch came out already. People are squawking that how did we not know this?
It's very interesting what ended up happening with all that. Man, of course I can't find it now. I should have saved it.
Because remember, too, we also, as taxpayers, funded a whole committee that investigated it with Liz Cheney and a bunch of others from the previous House of Representatives that drew all these conclusions about the last president and his insurrection, supposedly.
Right, but they're finding videos of these people that were pushing in, like, all that stuff, and they have their FBI badges out showing it to the camera to say, hey, we're good to go through.
Yes.
They're in full head to toe.
Yes.
Like, unless it's a fake badge, which is definitely could be a possibility,
Yes.
but I don't know who thought, hey, let me bring fake but I mean, if you go on Twitter right now,
this was the one that I saw, that middle one there, of the suspicious activity that they thought was off of camera, where he takes the cuffs off the guy, they fist bump. Very, very odd. Very, very odd.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Obvious Fed.
It's just so, and then this is the one that I saw, right? These are the police officers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see this?
Yeah. They're just walking in. Yes.
This is, I mean, guys, I'm not swaying anyone a certain way. I'm just saying, like, you got to look at this stuff where you'll go, okay, hold on. There's way more to this than just
Now, that had Nancy Pelosi on. If that was
No, this isn't it.
Okay.
This is just them talking about the storming of the Capitol. And
so they're mocking it. Well, I'll say this. I'll play devil's advocate because we don't know it all. Just because you have films of some people walking in doesn't mean there was an insurrection going or some drama going on somewhere else. We know stuff was going on outside. We saw it. But they were making it seem as though there was all this chaos.
Here it is. Hold on, guys, we're going to cut this out, but I want my mother to see this. My mom basically debunked that one. She's right. We talked about it just because I can't post that. But, yeah. But even then, just go look with a fine comb, go through some stuff, and just see what you think, because there's a lot of stuff coming out that...
And there's nothing wrong with federal agents being undercover at an event like this.
But when the undercover agents are the ones doing certain things, which we've seen video evidence of.
Right. This is where it's becoming how
now
many
we
were
have
there.
questions.
Right. Now we have something called ghost buses. That was brought up by Representative Higgins with Christopher Wray. Do you know about these ghost buses that pulled up and all these federal agents were getting out dressed as Trump supporters or MAGA supporters and flooding the area? And we've got tons of pictures of these buses coming in, or many pictures. He has no idea what that is. No idea. Blah, 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 blah. So that's why we're not getting the full story of that day. And how does Christopher Wray not know whether he claims there were absolutely no federal people at these events. No federal agents that infiltrated it and caused problems. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we're seeing pictures of suspicious activity where there are federal people.
Yeah, I'm just saying, go look at it for yourselves, guys, because there's a lot there that I think you'll be interested in. If you just want the truth, I'd go over with a comb.
And you have to do it in the context of, and we did talk about this months ago, okay? In the context of how the Constitution works, how the House of Representatives works, what the protocol is if there's an insurrection, what happens when you shut a proceeding down. What happens when you throw the switch half hour, an hour later and come back in?
Right.
Now it's a new call to order. Now you can't go back and look at votes based on the protocol. Nobody's making that up. That is literally the timeline of what happened, and you have to take that into consideration when you go back and you say, oh, there was an insurrection. They had to stop.
There's a lot of timelines that don't make sense. That's
well, they make sense if you want to stop the count of a vote and
yes.
you want to open a new session.
Before we get age restricted, before we take a channel strike, just want to let you guys be aware of that. So we'll end it there. We just did an hour 12. So the only things I have to promote, guys, is last week's podcast. I also put out an Xbox Games Pass video on Unravel 2. And then we did some speed runs this week. So go check those out, but they'll be posted next month. So you guys can wait on those. edited. And then, that's pretty much it. So social media down below, promo codes down below, Discord down below, other stream links down below. Happy Thanksgiving for you Americans, because we won't see you guys. We have a big week ahead of us. We got some traveling. I don't know if I'm here next weekend. We might take a week off if I'm in where. So we'll have to see. I don't know what Uncle wants, but we'll figure that out. But I'll let you guys know on stream if I'm here or not. I might not be.
Maybe I'll perform Shakespeare on the mic. And, no, I'm kidding.
If you want, you can do it. If you can set up a podcast, you can do it with Mr. G.
I can't edit it. All that stuff.
Well, that's fine. You just have to record it. I could throw it up when it's done. If you can figure out the recording, you and Mrs. Greta can go at it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
See if Mom can
Nobody wants to
single-handedly
see that.
see if Mom can single-handedly get my channel strike again.
Between her? Are you kidding me? Forget it.
Yeah.
They'll pull you down.
All right, guys. We will see you next one. And again, happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
So, laters.